Welcome to the Change Leaders Playbook, bringing you all things delivery leadership in a podcast. I'm your host, Cliff, an experienced leader of project and program delivery teams. I'm joined here today by Ikum Kandola, the CEO of Teachify, which is the UK's leading generative AI ed tech company. They're the only company in the UK that accurately tailors teaching resources to the latest UK exam specifications, and they're super passionate about ending the injustice in the UK education sector. I'm really looking forward to this conversation, so let's welcome Ikum on board. How are you doing?
I'm great, thank you. How are you doing today, Cliff?
Yeah, fabulous. Very good indeed. Great to meet you once again. We had a little chat a little while back, so it's really, really good to meet you and figure out what you were all about, but I wanted to save all of that for today's conversation. So let's get straight into it. So Ikum, tell us all about you. How did you get to where you are today?
Good question. So I'm going to tell you the whole story, how I got into tech and how I started my company. So from a young age, I've had a big interest in tech. I'd say the first thing that really got me into it was through video games. So I was only about 6 years old. I went on a family wedding to India and I met like a family friend who was from America, and he introduced me to a Nintendo DS. And from that point, I've just been completely obsessed with the latest technology. And I got a DS myself, and then I got a PlayStation. And when I was about 14, I was really, really interested in games. I wanted to be a games tester myself, and I used to make YouTube videos as well, trying to show like the latest tech and the latest games and all that cool stuff. But I wasn't, unfortunately, that career path didn't quite work out for me. So I know I wanted to do something tech related, but I just wasn't quite sure what to do. So I was quite interested in cybersecurity as well around my teenage years. But once I started coding, I actually really didn't enjoy it at all. I kind of fell off computer science and I wanted to do something more like math related. And then it wasn't until I was about 18, I applied for an apprenticeship scheme to do computer science at University of Birmingham. And I got into the course, fully funded, and then I decided like that was the best path for me. When I was at University of Birmingham, I was surprised myself. I had a really, really great experience. And one of the things like I will compare that university to one of the top universities is you get a lot of people there who are really, really entrepreneurial. I always thought the top unis would have the most entrepreneurial people, but from my experience, it's the most entrepreneurial people often are not getting the very, very top grades because they're not spending all their time revising. They have things on the side as well. So I found myself a good friend group of other entrepreneurs as well. And once we lived together, I actually learned a lot off them and was really inspired by some of the other work they were doing. And then during my time at university, I actually also worked in a school to teach computer science. As in the years leading up to that, I kind of started my own business doing tutoring. So I was into teaching. I started at school, and I just saw the way that other teachers taught and like how different it was to what I was doing. And I just saw like all the ways that I was kind of tech enabled, able to save time and do things in much more efficient ways to a higher standard than some of the teachers. Not in every way, of course, like there's a lot of things that I need to work on. So like controlling the class was something I struggled with, but the tech side, I was good. So around that time also, ChatGPT came out. So I ran a few workshops for the teachers. I did an online course and I was just completely obsessed again with the latest technology. And I saw the other ed tech platforms out there, and I just saw like even they were quite far behind. A lot of them were run by teachers who'd gone into tech, or they were run by tech people who were just out of touch with teachers. And there were not many people who were in the prime position I was in, where generative AI had just come out. I was at university, I knew all about it, and so I thought, why don't I make my own application, bring it to the teachers, and try and change the way that education works going forward.
Fantastic, thanks for that. Really, really good response. I think from my perspective, I remember many years back, I actually thought I was going to be a teacher as well, and I realised how hard it was going to be. And to be quite frank, it resonated a lot with me because I thought, wouldn't it be good to have other tools to actually help the pupils to do better and to improve? And I clearly did not go down that channel in the end. I went into tech and program and project leadership, but I definitely commend everything that you've just said there. I especially really quite keen on how you sort of talked about the fact that you're able to accelerate your ability to do things because of your tech prowess and your tech knowledge. And it's just really interesting to me to see that tech isn't just there to make lives easier. It can be there, and it should be there to help speed things up, speed up processes, especially in this day and age with ChatGPT and other large language models and AI overall. So yeah, really good to see that. So how did that then translate to you starting Teachify, and where are you at the moment on your journey?
Yeah, so I guess initially I wasn't really trying to start a business. So I really just wanted to make the application myself, just to help the teachers actually write lesson plans in a much faster way. And when I'd done in-person workshops, I was trying to tell them how to use like prompting techniques to write their lesson plans. And there was just a lot for them to remember. And it was already, for some of them, so difficult just to log in the first place because they just weren't really used to technology. They just done everything by hand. So for them to, on top of that, have to remember a lot of prompts, and then also they have to like go to the curriculum and like copy and paste a lot of text in, get things from here and there. And then in the end, it wasn't actually that much quicker for them, even though for me, it was so much quicker. So I thought I wanted to just make an app to kind of do everything in one because I could see the vision in my head, but it just wasn't quite coming through to them. So after I made the application, I showed the teachers and they were just really, really impressed with it and they started to use it. And at the time as well, I was also doing my dissertation. So I was actually doing my dissertation on something else. And it was only about like a month to go before I had to hand it in. And I was just so far behind on that because I was just obsessed with this new app that I built. So I actually decided to switch my dissertation to this new app. And then I also was able to kind of get feedback from the university as well at the same time. And that's kind of how the app started. And then I also, before that, had done a tutoring company as well. And I brought on my friends to help me with that because I was just kind of overwhelmed with clients who I was teaching programming. And again, it kind of links in with the business where we had a lot of clients, but we weren't able to take them all on because we're spending too much time on some of the admin stuff and like the mundane stuff that we didn't really want to be doing, like lesson planning, making questions, making kind of worksheets, and a lot of things that I found would be perfect for my new application. So I brought my friend on board as my co-founder. We worked together to improve the application. And then that was all around about a year ago. And then since then, we've just been going around to different schools, showing them the application and really trying to make a difference in the education sector. And for us, like that's definitely been the tough part. We're very much like tech-enabled people, finding our place in the education sector, which is, let's face it, like just a bit further behind than most other industries. That's been the difficult part for us. So yeah, we've helped a lot of schools and we've won a number of awards as well recently. So we're in touch with one of the Dragon's Dens. Dragon's called Theophytis. He gave us the SBS award around a year ago as well. And then more recently, we were named Startup of the Year for the Midlands as well by UK Startup Awards in the education category. So yeah, we've just been working on a lot of our, should we say, like business weaknesses recently, which has been branding, marketing, and just getting us out there as much as possible because the tech side is really our strong point at the moment.
No, that's very much understood. And one of the things that you touched on was about finding your audience as well. So I think one of the dangers is you could go in and say, right, anybody in education is our market, therefore we're going to pinpoint all of them and try and be one thing that fits all areas. Now, I suspect that wasn't the case. So how did you go about finding out your audience, your market, and making sure that the product that you were delivering on actually meets that market?
Yeah, great.
Which of course I think is the school's market within a certain age group. So tell us about that.
Yeah. So as you rightly said at the start, I just wanted to help every teacher, and I thought the app could help every teacher out there. But that was just because of my perception of how education works and how teachers work. But until I really was in there, like running more workshops and speaking to more teachers, it wasn't until then I kind of saw through the eyes of teachers and kind of got to gauge a bit in a bit more detail, like who we'd really be able to help the most. So when we started and we were just quite broad, we found that some teachers basically most teachers liked the app, but none of them really loved it because there was just like too many options for them, that it was a bit more complicated to use. They had like so many different things they could do with the app and half of them were not really applicable to them. So that was a bit of a hindrance. And then what we tried to do as well to get more people on board with the app was expand our marketing and social media. So we tried different social media strategies. We've used Instagram, we've used Facebook, we've used LinkedIn as well. And then from that, we kind of got to see, actually, we even used TikTok recently as well, which I'll get onto. And then from there, we kind of got to see like which kind of teachers like the app the most and in what different ways. So we found that the younger generation of teachers liked the app a lot more because they were much more open-minded to using AI. The older teachers were a bit more stuck in their ways, and they also had a bit more family commitments as well. So they weren't able to give up their time to kind of say like, would you be able to spend some time like having like this new application? And they just didn't seem to have as much incentive to do that. Whereas the younger generation, they've seen ChatGPT come out. A lot of them just come out of university and they had used ChatGPT for all their university assignments. So they were completely obsessed, and they wanted to do something teaching related as well. So we found from the social media we had a lot more success with younger generation, and that's why we've also targeted TikTok recently as well. And we found it's much easier to expand our reach that way, and go viral on TikTok rather than through other social media platforms or instead.
Understood. And what led you to sort of think, actually, now we found our market in terms of the teachers within specific type of school with a specific persona, so to speak? How did you arrive at that? Was it, as you said, looking at the age group and trying to test it out with certain people, or something different?
So we actually failed a lot of times first, to be honest with you. We tried a lot of other routes. We tried to speak to a lot of teachers, go to a lot of schools, and then we just felt we were just failing a little bit at trying to get out there. So I'm actually also on an incubator scheme with University of Birmingham, and as part of that, I'm able to get business advice. So I had a lot of meetings with them. They introduced me to a lot of other people, and I spoke to a lot of other founders from companies around Birmingham as well. And it was mainly through speaking to them that I was able to kind of step back and see what was happening. And I found success from another founder called Sasha, who was really good at TikTok, and she had a company called Natty, which sells helmets. I kind of didn't really believe that TikTok would be a good avenue to start with. But once I saw her success on TikTok and some of her videos had like millions of views, I kind of started to see a vision that way. And she told me to speak to some other newly qualified teachers as well. And I kind of found a bit of the community on TikTok that way. So once I found that, I kind of saw my way into the market a bit better, and I went from there. And then like some of the failures I had before was we tried on Instagram more to target teachers, but they were like slightly older, and we just found like a lot less traction with them. And on top of that, we looked at the other companies which do similar things to us, so other edtech companies around AI, and we saw that what they did, but we also kind of saw what they did that was failing as well, which is on Instagram a lot. And like sometimes you got to think like do something different to what everyone else is doing. Like if they zig, then you got to zag. And yeah, once we just had to keep iterating, keep trying different things, and that's how we finally got through with the TikTok.
Yeah, I really like that analogy. The iteration, almost using the right channel of marketing, actually helps you to identify your audience and the right target audience in the first place that are likely to use it in terms of the demographics, which is quite interesting. It's funny enough, I'm reminded only today I read a story about, do you know, this is not even a tech company, do you know the company Stanley, who create those amazing mugs that are almost indestructible? They're like 100+ year old company, and they launched that I think in 2016, this large cup for construction workers, and it didn't go very well. It was like three years in the making and didn't actually go very far. And so they tried to can it, and then a group of mothers, I think, who have like an Instagram group, they decided that it was really good, and they put a post about it, and that went really, really well. And they actually convinced Stanley to give them, I think, 5,000 or so orders, which sold out really quickly. Then they got another 5,000, they sold out within hours. And then they realized that through accident, they found their audience and their market by going through a different channel, which was indirectly through Instagram or social media. And then they found their true market. And since then, I think they've sold in excess of 10 million of those cups up to 2023, which is just, when you said that, it just really reminded me of that channel, because it's accidental, it can be, but it goes by, it's kind of not giving up on the vision that you've got for a product, the fact that it can work. And this company, Stanley, almost gave up on it until they realized an opportunity came, and it gave them a chance to make a lot of gains from it. And it's taken off in a significant way. So yeah, really good analogy from you there. Good example around how that's happened for you, and you found your audience. So now that you have done that, you found your audience, I'm really keen to just think about the journey of creating the products in the first place. I know you said that it's your strong point, but you're as a tech company. However, I'm yet to see a development life cycle that's gone quickly or easily. Yeah. So tell us about how you've gone about developing it. How did you iterate it? How did you find the right features? How are you still developing it now? And yeah, what are you learning?
Yeah, perfect. So I will also say that I've also been a software engineer for a number of years now at a Big Four company. So I have like a fair bit of experience as well working in product teams and developing applications before. And that's the same with my co-founder. as well. And then also we have a degree on top of that. So fair bit of experience there. So I'd say like from the start, because there was just not much pressure, we weren't really trying to go for a business at the very start. It was a lot easier, and then no one was really relying on us. We didn't have any users, and then we could kind of just take our time with it, no deadlines or anything. And I think the most important thing for us to start with was for me to do the workshops in person to see what troubles teachers actually had, because I feel like a lot of people these days, they go straight into making the product without really understanding the customer base and all the issues they may have. So that was the first key thing that we did. We spoke to a lot of teachers, and also I had years of experience as a tutor as well, which kind of fed into it. And then the very first app we did was terrible, and we had to scrap the whole thing and just do the whole thing again. So I think from that we really brought on like more of an agile methodology where we try to work in cycles, and I kind of accepted that sometimes, you know, we build things and then we do end up scrapping them and having to do them again, and that's just completely fine. It's because once you do it the first time, you learn so much, and you see like a new vision for the app or for the feature that you didn't have in the first place, and then you do it again to achieve that. So you're not really like wasting your time from doing that failing in the first place. So like from a technical perspective, the first app I built, I used a whole different like technology stack and had a whole different look to it as well. And it was only once I'd gone through and built the whole thing that I was able to see all the pitfalls that I had done using this technology stack, which at the start I wasn't really able to see. So, you know, the first development of the app took about 4 months, and then I pretty much had to start the whole thing again with my co-founder, and we actually brought in another expert as well in web app development to help us, and he advised us on how to like avoid all these pitfalls along the way. And we used a much more up-to-date tech stack, which is like, it's called Next.js, which I've seen it, they've used it for other big websites like OpenAI, even use it for ChatGPT, use it for Twitch, a lot of websites like that. So yeah, those are like the biggest learnings I've had so far.
Fantastic. What would you say to somebody then that was going on that development cycle about the development of a similar type of product, or something that's got not the same features, but something that does something similar? What have you learned that you'd say, actually, maybe we should not do this, or maybe we should do this next time around?
I'd probably say I tried to do everything myself at the start, and I tried to do everything from scratch, just by myself. And going back, I think that wasn't really necessary. Like, it's okay to ask other people for help. It's okay to even like get another app as a starting point, a template, or even use like a more simple technology, like kind of drag and drop, low code platform as well. I think could have achieved a lot. And from doing that, you make the app much more easy to maintain. And if somebody does come to you with a new feature they would like, it's much easier to implement it quickly, and there's much less bugs. And so I think it was kind of like part of my pride at the start. I wanted to do everything myself, and I'd also was kind of doing it also for fun, as like a coding project almost. That has meant like some of the development's taken a little bit longer, and it means when we've had new people join the team, they have a lot more to learn to be able to actually do something with the app. And I think I also had an idea that we would just keep adding more and more features to the app. But now I see things in a different way. It's more like we make a feature for the app, we throw it out to the audience, get their feedback, and then we might even like remove the feature. And actually, like as we go through, the app is more and more tailored to the teacher rather than has more and more features than what I initially thought. So that's some of, and then another thing that I've learned, and I would definitely recommend.
Very interesting point, because I think what you're saying is that lots and lots of features isn't necessarily the right way. It's about figuring out which of those features matter the most and focusing your efforts on those. But you can't do that until you actually get it out there in the first place and reach your target audience, so you can find out what they actually really need day to day. So that is really, really good advice, really good counsel. What about the fact that your team, which was initially just you, I think, was very small, so you had to do everything in terms of the development, the planning, understanding what the use cases are that you want to achieve, testing, reviewing it, going back through the whole loop again, everything, and oversight. All of that had to be done with, a very small handful of people. What did you learn from that process? And do you think now that there's things that we can do in, say, for example, if you're working in an enterprise environment, that you can do that to make your life easier and more efficient based on what you've learned working in such a small team delivering a meaningful product?
Yeah, I say that's probably been one of the biggest challenges, is like doing so much with so little resources. I think one thing that's been like super, super important is that if it's your own project, your own company, and you have some kind of ownership of that, that really, really drives you. And if you work in a big corporation, I think that is one thing that's lacking a little bit. But I think there's any way within your enterprise that you can kind of get some kind of ownership or have some kind of separation of like, I'm doing this feature, and then you can kind of put your name to it. That for me is like really, really motivating as well. Another thing as well is I've had to be really, really strict with my time. So I've had to to turn a lot of things down, turn down unnecessary meetings, and like turn down unnecessary features, things like that. I've had to be super, super strict. And then this point is more for startup founders, less so for big enterprises. But you really, really need to think out of the box of ways that you're going to get time for your company. Like, no one is going to give you time, and no one is going to make that time for you. You have to make it yourself. So for me, like, ways that I thought outside the box is I've gone to networking events and met other people my age who are looking to go into tech or trying to get a job at a big company and looking for internships. So I've offered them internships at my company, and some of them have been unpaid internships. And then that's been kind of a win-win for both of us, because I've also been able to kind of tutor them with my previous tutoring experience in how to code. They've also been able to work on a huge project and then kind of have their name on that as well. And then that's been big for their career. And for us, it's meant that we're able to develop much, much more quickly because we have a team as well. And the more I can do to kind of separate myself from doing that, more of the hands-on coding, the more that I can work on the business rather than in the business. And that allows me to take the business forward in a lot of ways. And another thing I've done as well is try to look for ways where I can kind of kill two birds with one stone and try to do two things at once. So within other work I've done as well, I've looked for overlap of where I could learn a skill that would also be useful for my company. And then when I work on that skill, it kind of feels like I'm working on my company at the same time, even though I'm actually doing something for someone else.
Yeah, very good. I like that. So it's a good efficiency tool. I'm always on a personal mission to do more with the same amount of time. So a couple of things you've mentioned there about utilizing people and also the cost reduction for your business as well. Utilizing interns who are hungry, eager to learn, and it's a win-win from that perspective, as well as almost getting the experience that you need in other avenues at the same time. That's really good. So yeah, appreciate that. Now, linking on to that then, a similar question, because you talked about how you are focusing now more on the business, running the business rather than doing the development. What are the challenges you're facing? What are the things that you've had to experience? And I'm thinking initially about pitching for funding or pitching in the first place. How has that gone for you, and what have you learned throughout that process?
So, I mean, the pitching journey for me has been quite an interesting topic. So when I started, I obviously no pitching experience, and I was very nervous when it came to public speaking. And even when in school, that's the only time I'd ever done public speaking one time, and it honestly like flopped. I mean, it was terrible. So I didn't want to go for funding straight away with the business, just because we thought we could do a lot of it ourselves in terms of building the app. And we thought that the better that we can make the business, when we go for funding, the better deal that we can get. So we thought we were able to put it off a little bit and develop more of the app, which is what we've done. And then in terms of pitching, the big experience I had with pitching was when I went to an event, a Times Higher Education event in Exeter, where I pitched to about 100 people who were from university leaders from across the country. And that was my first big chance at pitching. So to prepare for that, I put a lot of time in just using my whole network of founders, speaking to them about how they also did their pitches. I tried to read their pitches. I went on LinkedIn as well, and I found some of the most inspirational people I find, and some of them had their pitches on their LinkedIn. So I was able to read through there, and I also found through Y Combinator, I saw people who had won a place on Y Combinator and looked at their pitches as well. So for example, you can find a lot of those online, for example, like Airbnb. And I took the main themes from all of them and kind of collated them all together and used that to plan my pitch. The main things were like the problem statement of the app, what we're solving, the audience, a lot of different things like that. And then once I made the pitch, I had to practice it again and again and again. And then when I actually did the pitch as well, I was so nervous. So I did a few breathing exercises before, and honestly, I was so nervous. It felt like almost like an out-of-body experience when I was just waiting to go up. I couldn't really focus on what anyone was saying. I was just so nervous about my pitch. And then I went up and I performed it, and I would say it went quite well, but honestly, it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. And I felt like being on stage and having all that pressure and then not feeling as much as you want actually has been the biggest motivator I could possibly ask for now, like perfecting my pitch after that. And I think a lot of the time people underestimate like your emotions, and you think like you can put the time in to do something really well, but when you have the emotion there as well, it's just completely different. If you've actually like failed on the stage or kind of embarrassed yourself, I'm not saying that I completely did that, but if you did, I feel like that would just motivate you in a completely different way. So like putting myself out there, doing that, and then after that point, only a few weeks later, I entered another pitch competition. I won the pitch competition, and when I was pitching in front of those people, it was about 40 people instead. It just felt so comfortable to me. I could just talk on stage. It was just like talking to one person, like I knew everyone already, and I'd already done the pitch before, so I knew it all off by heart, and the questions were quite similar from the first time round. So I would say like if you want to improve your pitching, you need to go out there and just pitch as much as possible, get the feedback, and fail quickly. And the quicker that you can fail, the quicker that you'll get that kick up the arse to actually try your best and improve your pitch and move forward.
Fantastic. And I suspect that's why I'm sure that pitching for funding, which is going to be very nerve-wracking, is going to be very similar to a project leader giving an update to a board or a group of executives pitching for funding to keep their project going or keep their program moving forward. So those same skills really apply. And yeah, I think there's a lot to be learned around that. I didn't realize that Y Combinator had some pitches online, so I might look at that as well, because I'm sure I can benefit from that, just from the point of presenting really, really succinctly and powerful messages that actually get people to do action. So yeah, thanks for that tip. Right, so the next thing I wanted to just touch on really was about the future of Teachify. What does it look like for you? Where would you love it to be in the future, sort of 3 years, 5 years from now, and how's that going?
Yeah, so it's honestly hard to say. There's so many ways that it can move forward. I think it's highly dependent from a technical perspective on what's going on with AI. So we keep very up to date. So recently we've added some new features where you can, for example, put a link to a YouTube video and we can take resources from that. And what we're likely to see with AI is, at the moment, it's very good with text. It can do images and it can do videos, but we're going to see that improve a lot going forward. So like already we're able to take a YouTube video, turn that into a resource. I think soon we'll be able to take some data, for example, like from a textbook, and turn that into a video as well. And well, first will come images, then will come videos, but I can definitely see that going forward. And then that will be like much more interactive way for teachers teach their students. And in terms of the rest of the business, we're just looking more at helping the future generation of teachers. So we're going to work with more educational institutions who actually teach teachers. So universities, University of Birmingham, for example, we're going to look at working with the lecturers there, helping them create the course next year, and then try to integrate some AI into that to make sure teachers have more time for their students and to try to improve the level of their lesson planning as well.
Fabulous. Yeah, it sounds pretty exciting, to be fair. So with that, I'm also interested in just what you've learned about being a leader, because you've had to lead by example, by getting your hands dirty and coding and picking up what you needed to and pivoting with a new stack once you realized the first iteration wasn't where you wanted it to be. What is this whole process so far, and your business taught you about how to lead and how to lead teams and how to even lead yourself?
Yeah, for me, that's been a big learning journey. At the start of my business, I didn't have a lot of experience as a leader. So I've kind of just learned from being thrown into the deep end and learned from experience. So I've managed a lot of people in the team so far, probably around 10 people I've had to lead. So I've kind of built it up from there. So I'd say, well, the first thing is everyone in the team needs to be able to depend on you as the leader. So you need to be confident and you need to know your stuff. You need to be able to give everyone instructions, give them feedback, and they should be able to rely on you. So it's not acceptable to be working less hard than anyone else, really, because it's your business, your company, you're the leader. I would say also from my journey, it's kind of been, like I said before, like get out there, fail quickly, and then improve on it. So some of the things that didn't go so well for me at the start was I was a little bit too soft as a leader. And then some people didn't take the business as seriously as they should have done. Especially like just starting out, it's harder for them to see the vision, and it's harder for them to see my commitment level. So I think your leadership style, it needs to be also kind of tailored around you're going to be speaking to. Because I come from a tech background, and then tech people are very different to people in other sectors. And then I find it much more easier to get along with tech people, and I think much more functionally. So I can give them instructions and then they can perform them. And I'm very good at giving clear instructions. But then I meet some people from other sectors who are much more like people orientated. And then for them, it's much more important for me to spend some time getting to know them. We go out for lunch more often, drinks after work, things like that, which will make a much bigger difference. And then they kind of see you in a different way, and then they're much more comfortable to come to you for questions and things like that. So I've kind of had to learn that not everyone thinks the same way I do, and then try to be more empathetic to different people, and then adapt my leadership in that style.
Yeah, that's a really good takeaway around leadership. So it's not one size fits all. People are different. Treating them differently to get the best out of them is the right way to go. I guess with that comes with a lot of bit more effort than normal, really, because it means you've got to think more about the individual and respond accordingly. So hats off to you for that. Last question from me, in fact, second to last question, is about time management. You're juggling quite a lot of things. What are your tips around managing time really, really well to get the things done that you need to in all the things that you're up to?
Yeah, I'm just obsessed with time management. It's just so important for everything I do. I do a lot. So before I started this company, I read a lot of books about time management, and I tried to implement all those things. So the first thing I do that's really helpful is time boxing. So I don't do it every day, but when I have something really important that needs to be done, or if there's a lot of things I need to do, first thing in the morning or the night before, I go in my calendar and first of all, I make a list of everything I need to do. Then I put the list in an order, prioritized order, and I estimate how long each thing will take. Then I go through my calendar and I put everything in one by one, giving myself that much amount of time for each thing. And I always do the most important things first. I find out when I don't do that, I can spend a lot longer on one task than I need to. For example, I could do something like recently we wrote a blog for winning a competition. I could probably write a blog in 5 minutes. I could also write a blog in 1 hour. And then the longer I spend on it, the better it will be. But when you have so many things to juggle, you need to, by doing the time boxing method and stepping back, you kind of stop yourself spending longer than you need to on one task. And you can't always spend as long as you would like to get it perfect. That's just been one thing that's been huge for me. I also like to work with a timer as well sometimes if I can't focus. So I can be quite easily distracted. I have a lot of energy. So I kind of sit by myself, try and put my phone away and then start a timer for an hour. Sometimes it can be half an hour, sometimes it can be even 2 hours. I read some studies on what the best amount of time to do is. I used to use like a Pomodoro technique, which is about 25 minutes of working and a 5-minute break. Now I do about an hour, and then I take about a 20-minute break as well. So that's another tip. And then on top of that, I also think a lot about what I do in my break time. So sometimes I would just like mindlessly scroll social media in my break in between tasks. And then when I come back to working, I felt like I hadn't even really taken a break. But at the same time, I'd been looking at something completely different. So the new task I was on, it took me a while to kind of process that. So it was basically just a pointless break, in my opinion. Whereas now I try to use no social media and take a walk. And when I take a walk as well, I do some like breathing exercises sometimes. And I will, walk around the canals as well in Birmingham. And then I'm quite young as well. So I'm trying to also improve what I do in the weekends and evenings. So before, sometimes I would drink with my friends. Now I tried to completely cut that out, but I found myself becoming a bit antisocial and it wasn't really helpful for me. So I thought instead of doing something like drinking, I could do something that's still not super healthy, but a bit better so I can still treat myself. So now I might treat myself a little bit in other ways, like go out for dinner, have a nice dessert, something like that. And before I feel really guilty about that, but now I'm a bit more lenient. And then that helps me in terms of time management because it helps me take a proper break, feel really refreshed, spend time with my friends, socializing, and then come back for work and be able to give it 100% and crack on with the time boxing.
That's great. I think you've answered that question like with so much depth that I don't think I have any more questions for you. So yeah, absolutely. I've learned quite a bit there around time management. I'm obsessed with it as well. And it really helps when you're on your game and you kind of know that you've time boxed something and that hour is, when you spend it well, it's better than 4 hours just messing about, to be honest with you. So really good updates there. What can we expect in the future, and then this was short term from Teachify? Where can we find you and what can we expect coming soon? if anything?
Yes, we've got a lot more features coming soon. Find us on LinkedIn. You can visit our website, teachifyuk.com. We have a contact us page on that. So at the moment, we're also looking to work with more schools to do more tailored programs. So everything on the app at the moment is just simply not their curriculum, but we're looking to work with more schools to work with their own personal curriculums to make teaching resources even more personalized as well.
Fantastic. Thanks, Ikum. So that's pretty much where we are now. We've ended. We've heard a lot from Ikum about Teachify, his business, how he got into it. Lots of hints and tips, in particular around leadership, starting out in the first place, team leadership, and of course time management. So if you want any more, you can go to his website. I'll link everything in at the bottom of the podcast. I'd really be keen to hear more from you as well. Check us out. We also have a newsletter for Change Leaders Playbook, and it is changeleadersplaybook.com. Check us out. I'll do a specific post all about Ikum and his team as well. So look out for it. It'd be great to see you in the next episode. Bye for now.